Okay. And with that, we're just about 2 minutes after. So I'll just say a quick welcome. I'm Samantha Dyna, Director of Special Projects at the Maine Department of Labor. Good to see some familiar faces and lots of new faces. So we are really excited to hear all of your feedback. Our goal today is to listen. So we are here to give you some kind of grounding questions, but really hear what's on your mind and get feedback and the good ideas that you all have coming from different sectors and different walks of life to make sure that you're influencing our work. So with that, I'm going to kick it over to Commissioner Fortman to do a quick welcome as well, and then we'll walk through what we're going to do today. Commissioner?
Yeah, thanks, Sam, and thank you everyone for joining us this morning and for all of the good work that you do every single day. You know, we're at a unique moment in time right now in terms of being workforce development professionals. There has never been a time in my memory when workforce issues have been more front and center. I want to thank the strong partnerships that we've had over the years with many of you folks on here, you know, and I want to thank Antoinette for her leadership at the Coastal County Workforce Board. You know, the landscape is shifting with many more demands for flexibility and training for workers, and businesses are also trying desperately to get back to whatever the new normal is. And we're all in this together. MDOL is one partner in a community of partners that include advocates, employers, unions, industry associations, and local partners like the Workforce Board. What we're trying to do is understand and define how all of us are going to be working together in this new normal. And we want to take time to hear back from you and to better understand and inform how we are doing our work in a more collaborative, equitable, sustainable, and innovative ways. I think all of you have heard about the Maine Jobs and Recovery Plan. There was legislation that was passed, and that provides the broad framework for how those funds can be spent. There still are opportunities, though, to inform program design, the procurement process, the intended outcomes, and the partnerships as we work within those broad parameters. So our goal for today is really just that, capturing your thoughts, your questions, your feedback to help inform how those recovery planning efforts move forward. As Sam said, we'll be capturing all of this information. Like her, I see many familiar faces here. We're holding lots of these sessions and gathering lots and lots of feedback from folks. When the governor was first elected, she tasked DECD with creating a 10-year economic development plan during the pandemic. That plan was revised to meet the needs, and then the Maine Jobs and Recovery Plan actually came out of a lot of that good thinking, except now there are resources in order for us to actually implement some of these exciting ideas. So like Sam said, lots of work to do today. And so I'll stop there. And thank you again for participating today. So back over to you, Sam.
Awesome. Thanks, Commissioner. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen, and we're going to hit on a couple of the points that the Commissioner just mentioned and talk through what we're going to do today. Really, our goal is to listen. So hopefully I'm not talking at you for too long, but we do want to provide a bit of grounding to let you know kind of what's in the works and some of the guiding principles for some of the work moving forward. And then we're quickly going to get to breakout groups. So we quickly want to get into smaller groups and hear what's on your mind to inform this work. Please, throughout this discussion, use the chat. If you've got any ideas, questions, go ahead and jump those in the chat or unmute yourself. We've got a relatively large group, but definitely encourage you to jump in with any questions as we go through, and I'll make sure I pause after the main slides as well. So what we are going to do today, as I said, we're going to discuss the current state and really brainstorm with you all on how to approach workforce development differently, capture your good ideas, feedback, and questions, and quickly get into some breakout groups around how we can work differently to advance some of these goals and get your feedback and considerations on some of the Maine jobs and recovery priorities and how we can really use your input to inform program design. As I said, please use the chat throughout, and we will do our best to answer as many of those questions. So just a couple of slides in terms of grounding where we are in this conversation today. As you all know and are probably feeling, we are continuing to recover from the pandemic. It was a really challenging last year, and we're coming out of this with some new learnings in terms of how workforce wants to interact in the workplace. Demands for more flexibility and demands for more training are really kind of shaking up what this workforce system of the future might look like. So as we go into the new normal, really want to be working closely with all of you to brainstorm how this can look to really best meet workers and employers' needs. So I wanted to lay some numbers out there. And so we really hit kind of the peak labor pool 20 years ago in Maine. And since then, it has been decreasing in terms of size due to the aging workforce. But there are pockets of the community that are traditionally sidelined and historically marginalized and not engaged in the workforce. And so here we call out a couple of those communities as well as some others where there are opportunities to further engage potential workers that might not be fully engaged in the workforce today. So some counties struggle with lower employment due to lower economic activity. Individuals with lower educational attainment are more likely to not be engaged in the workforce, and when they are unemployed, usually suffer longer bouts of unemployment. Individuals with disabilities are more likely to be disconnected from work. BIPOC communities have disproportionate rates of unemployment, and women are disproportionately represented in the current unemployment claimant population, some due to caretaking needs. So we recently put out a survey, and you all may have seen this. It was about 2 weeks ago that we published the results, and we asked current unemployment claimants as well as active job seekers on Maine JobLink, what are their current barriers that are preventing them from returning to work? And so we got about 2,600 respondents from across the state, and this is where the results shook out. I would say one of the big learnings for us, you'll see a lot of numbers here in the 30s and 20s. So not one big clear winner. There's not one clear barrier or one silver bullet that we can address to ensure that everyone has access to the workforce. There's a lot of different barriers. It's really complex, it's personalized, and it's nuanced. And if you look at it by different communities, these barriers shift. So older adults were much more likely to cite COVID health risks or health concerns, as well as age discrimination, while younger adults were more likely to cite things like insufficient wages or transportation and childcare. And so a couple of themes, though, did kind of cut across all of the populations. Individuals are looking for relevant, accessible training and job opportunities that could be in their area or remote, as well as flexibility. COVID health is still a really big priority for individuals and making sure that they're able to return to work without a health risk. Quality jobs, and I'm saying that in quotes, as that will mean different things to different folks, rose to the top as well. So you'll see some pieces here around pay and wages. You'll see some around benefits, as well as flexibility and predictability and schedules that individuals are looking for. And then social supports and infrastructure. So those really, some of these barriers existed before the pandemic. They were exacerbated by the pandemic. Pieces around transportation, affordable housing, and access to reliable childcare, big barriers as well. So we're really hoping to talk with you all. You're all part of this broader workforce system. We are just one piece to start brainstorming today, hear your good ideas around what you all are already doing in your communities to help address some of these barriers, particularly for those priority communities that are traditionally marginalized. So wanted to lay some groundwork in terms of some of the principles that we're using to underlie our workforce strategy. And really, we want your feedback on these. So that'll be our first breakout group around how can we use these principles to work differently with each other. So some principles around being more collaborative, making sure that we're coordinated so that this is an aligned and accessible and easy to navigate workforce system. We want to make sure that our efforts are equitable. As I mentioned, making sure that the populations that have been historically marginalized or on the sidelines of workforce are really at the center of our work, and that we're ensuring that there's opportunities for individuals to get connected to high quality, inclusive, and safe job opportunities. Making sure that all of our efforts are outcomes driven, so that there's a clear connection between the investments and the programs that we're working on, and some overarching metrics around job placement and connection to high quality training and increased wages. working innovatively. We really want to brainstorm with you all, learn what you're doing that's really creative and really moving the needle, and talk about how we might be able to scale those innovative ideas. And think about how we can make sustainable, transformative change. So we are receiving, as the commissioner said, we're receiving some funding to really put some fuel behind some of those ideas in the Maine Jobs and Recovery Plan. And we don't want those to just last for the length of the funding, those 2 years. We really want to make sure that that lasts beyond and changes the system. So as I mentioned, one of our key principles is being outcomes driven. So these are 3 outcomes that were clearly laid out in that Maine Jobs and Recovery Plan, as well as the 10-year economic plan, in terms of the big goals that we're really driving toward. So increasing the size of Maine's talent pool by 75,000 workers, increasing the percentage of individuals with a credential of value, and I put that in quotation marks as that is still being defined, and increase the average wage as well. So some of our efforts and how we plan to do that, to increase the size of the talent pool, we want to break down barriers for workers with a focus on those priority communities, and we want to attract new workers. We want to do this by investing in infrastructure to promote stability around affordable housing, childcare, transportation, really working across agencies to be able to do that. Provide navigation supports to address basic needs, and provide direct financial supports as well to promote stability. We want to work with our partners at DECD to attract new workers as well as a great place to live and work in Maine. We want to increase the percentage of individuals with a credential of value by connecting individuals to high quality training and connecting them with degrees, by ensuring that the training and education offered is aligning with labor market needs and what employers need today and in the future, by offering career exploration and guidance at an early age and throughout the lifespan, and providing direct financial assistance as well as other supports to ensure individuals can persist and attain those degrees and credentials. And lastly, to increase annual wage, we want to ensure that individuals have clear pathways to quality jobs, and want to help businesses offer high quality jobs by promoting employers' support of workers' livelihood via livable wages and benefits, supporting employers' investment in training to ensure there's pathways to advancement, and providing resources to employers and supports to create a more diverse and inclusive workplace. So as the commissioner mentioned at the beginning, all of this has been informed by the Maine Jobs and Recovery Plan, which was informed by input from 1,300 individuals over the last couple of years via listening sessions and surveys like this. And so where we're landing as we're moving toward implementation is these are our 3 goals that I just stated. And the way that we're thinking about some of our initiatives and really thinking about the themes of our funding are around 6 key buckets. So one is around apprenticeship and pre-apprenticeship. So really investing in scaling existing efforts and building new pathways to apprenticeship and pre-apprenticeship. 2 is around industry partnerships, providing supports to groups of employers from similar sectors or similar areas to come together and collectively address workforce needs that they might have. 3 is around job seeker navigation, financial support, and guidance. So ensuring that job seekers have access to individuals that can connect them to resources that they might need, or career exploration and pathway resources. 4 is around training and education support. So one piece of that is around the competitive skills scholarship program, as well as working closely with our partners at Maine Community College, UMaine System, CTE schools, adult ed, and K-12 as well. We want to support employers in creating inclusive workplaces by working with our partners at DECD on DEI hiring and retention initiatives. And also working closely with our partners at DHHS around healthcare workforce strategies to support upskilling, attainment of advanced credentials as well. So I just went through a lot of these, and there's a lot of text on this slide, but I'll hit on just a couple of other additions here. So under apprenticeship and pre-apprenticeship, we have a sector focus around healthcare, clean energy, manufacturing, and other industries that have been negatively affected by COVID, and a specific focus on our priority communities, BIPOC communities, women, people with disabilities, and justice-involved individuals. Healthcare workforce, I talked about tuition remission to ensure that individuals have support to attain advanced degrees, as well as the support to really help navigate the complex healthcare workforce system, including supporting immigrant individuals by connecting them with credential evaluation, prior learning assessments, and helping them to create pathways to healthcare jobs as well. Industry partnerships I hit on, but really supporting sectors and employer collaborations of workforce needs. And the employer supports as well in creating an inclusive workforce. So touched on working with DECD in supporting DEI hiring, as well as implementing a progressive employment initiative. So that's a really effective strategy within the disability community that really helps individuals and employers meet them where they are and really understand what their employment needs might be. And so really thinking about scaling that to other communities. Last piece of talking at you, and then I want to open it up for questions. Just wanted to frame where we're at in terms of the timeline. So as the commissioner said, in the summer, there was legislation around how the funds will be allocated. And so what we're doing now, including today, is getting input from you all, questions, ideas, what's working well that you want to raise so that we can really implement this work and plan this work in a way that is collaborative, coordinated, and sustainable. So what we're doing in the future, late fall, early winter 2022, so I would say late 2021, early 2022 is when these initiatives will start to get rolled out. So we will make sure that everyone who's attending these listening sessions, you'll get a recap of everything we learned across the listening sessions. I think this is our 6th. So we'll send out the recordings, the slides, and a summary of what we've learned. And then we'll also make sure that we let you know how you're able to access the different opportunities that will be coming out of these funding initiatives. Okay, so with that, I'm going to stop sharing my screen so I can see all of you and open it up if there's a couple of questions before we jump into breakouts where we'll have even more opportunity to dig in together. Any questions jumping off the page for all of you? And my DOL and State Workforce Board colleagues, if there's any context I missed, feel free to jump in too. Kayla, I see your hand is raised.
Hi, so I am a director for a local adult ed program. And one thing that I have noticed in the past year is the increasing dropout rate. Our adult ed programs are serving more and more high school age students. They're coming to us without obviously a high school credential. So we're helping them obtain that because without a high school credential, the job market is very slim for them. Have you thought about using any of the funding to help local adult ed programs and create more opportunities for these students that are dropping out of high school due to the pandemic?
Yeah, thanks for raising that, Kayla. That is exactly why we're having these conversations today, is to hear from you all what you're seeing on the ground to influence how we can really be best supporting communities. We are definitely working closely with our DOE partners, including adult ed, on implementing these efforts, but that's a really good flag. Thanks for raising that. Anybody else want to jump in with questions? And I guarantee we will have 20 minutes to get into breakouts and hear all of the thoughts, questions, and ideas that are jumping out, but want to leave space if there's anyone that wants to jump in now. And Linda, I saw your question in the chat. Yes, we will be posting the recordings, a summary, and the slides after we wrap up these sessions, which will be, we'll wrap up our sessions on Thursday, so next week these will be posted. Question. Okay, I think with that, Isaac, let's break out into smaller groups to give folks a chance to engage more deeply. And so I'm just going to share my screen one more time to let you know what we're going to do in this time together. So we're going to break out. Am I sharing my screen? Yes, okay. And we're going to go through the following questions. So these were some of the principles that I walked through at the beginning, and we really want your ideas around how can we embody these principles in our work moving forward to advance the goals that we talked about. So innovation, how must we as a workforce work differently to advance this goal? Collaboration, how can we at DOL, other state agencies, in collaboration with all of you, foster collaboration and coordination in a different way? Equity, what must be embedded in this work to achieve equitable outcomes, and how can we ensure that funding opportunities are broadly accessible? Sustainability, how can we ensure this work is sustainable and lasts beyond initial grant funding? So we're going to break out by goal. So these are our goals, again, increasing the size of the talent pool, increasing individuals with credential of value, and increasing the average wage. And think about these questions and really just get your thoughts, questions, and ideas, and then we will come back and share what we discussed. So we'll do that for about 20 minutes. Isaac, if you want to break us out, everyone should get a notification to zoom on over to a breakout room. We'll see you soon. Isaac, is there a room I should be in? Looks like room 1. Okay. Okay. I think we are all coming back. All right, Isaac, are we all back? Looks like yes. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and get started. Hopefully, folks were designated to report out. So we had Catherine from our group. So Catherine, go ahead and jump in and let the group know what we talked about.
Sure. So we talked about some of the real systemic issues that are really keeping people out of the workforce, sustainable housing, childcare, especially childcare that is on the weekend or in the evening, kind of in off hours, and also the problem where in sectors like hospitality, where you don't necessarily know your schedule from week to week, that's a real challenge for people. We talked about, the housing, maybe converting things into apartments, and then because it's such a big systemic issue working across departments as well. We didn't quite get a chance to talk about it, but also, attracting talent from outside of the state is a part of our group. And so, how are we advertising Maine to other states, and also, connecting people with opportunities here as well.
Great, thanks, Catherine. Let's see, Karen's group.
That would be me. I'm Mary Ellen Barnes. I work with Lincoln County Regional Planning. So we do a lot of community and economic development work along with transportation and other cool things. So our group, we had, the most comments came around equity. I'll just read a couple of those. So certainly the top one when we voted, not that we had a lot of time for all this back and forth, but English language acquisition is essential for equity. And there's a lot of different aspects about that across the different sectors. And depending on whether we're talking about different languages or different age groups, things like that. The other piece around equity is digital equity. So I think, as we all know, for the last year or so, there's so much more improvement to be made in both improving broadband and also getting more affordable technology to folks across the state. The other piece that we heard a bit about was certainly there was an endorsement for the strength of our current infrastructure. That is, whether it's the LWIBs or DOL programs, there's a lot of belief that these are fairly strong elements of the workforce of going forward here. And the other piece that was recognized in, I think, a few comments in the different boxes here was adult ed. That is one having to do with their tying to a certain kind of grant requirements in terms of how much money they can put into admin and how much money they can actually put into budget. So I may be talking through my hat right now, but other people can add to that. But what I see in my county and other areas is that they play a key role, and they could play a bigger role if they had more capacity. Let's see, hang on a second. Sorry, I didn't really get to look at everything. This is a great observation. Multi-year grant opportunities. Having going from one grant to another, and I live by grants, is just a killer. So I think if there could be multi-year grant opportunities, but I'm sure you're going to capture all the ideas here. So thank you very much.
Thanks, Mary Ellen. And yes, we will. All of these idea boards will live, and we will capture all of that and put that into our summary and synthesis. So don't feel the need to just go through all of them, because we'll make sure that we get through all of them. But thanks, Mary Ellen. That was super helpful. Chris, your group.
Yeah, and as I have in past listening sessions, I forgot to identify someone to report out, so I will do it. I forget that every time. So on ours, we were looking at increased attainment of credentials of value. And some of the main themes here is to make sure that the eligibility criteria should be as broad as possible. Meet people where they are. We had the foreign trained professionals idea up again, like we have in most of these sessions. I think we had a lot of good folks from adult education and CTE, or adult education programs, and wanting that adult education was collaborating with CTEs to develop collaborative programming, make sure that we're developing clear career pathways that is easy to understand for everyone. And I think braided funding and reconfiguring the allocation methods came up as a sustainability idea. So yeah, lots of good stuff here. And I think I'll stop there.
Awesome. Thank you, Chris and group. And Kim, your group.
I also neglected to nominate someone until the very end. So it's me, I guess. And group, if I misrepresent our conversation, please feel free to correct me. And you did a great job of putting notes on the sticky. So thank you for that. We focused on the need to develop strategies that definitely address unique barriers to employment for individuals or for populations that are struggling. But at the same time, remember that we're providing services to individuals and they're all unique. Talked a lot about credential attainment, building on what people already have, and then what is really needed in order that for them to get to that next step or to get that dream job. We had a little bit of conversation around what we should have a campaign that really is designed to speak to the reasons that people are not returning to work and talk about why they should be, because whatever has changed. And there was also a note about perhaps we utilize information from targeted focus groups. We talked about making sure that strategies that we develop are also speaking or are additionally speaking to rural communities, so the unique needs of our rural communities. Lots of conversation around, gosh, why can't we have that common database, coordinated referrals? Why can't we see what we're each doing? Gosh darn, I see so many nods, it makes me happy. And then again, Chris, I heard you talking about the braiding and blending of resources, so that again, we're not exhausting one program when we could be blending and braiding and being able to accommodate more people, serving more people across the gamut beyond what just one program can provide. And then I saw a great comment that says, work smarter. We didn't get into the details around that one, but I like it anyway. So group, anything that I missed?
And whoever wrote work smarter, put what that means in the chat so we can all take that forward in our days and lives and work smarter moving forward. Great. So I'm going to just set up our next activity. Awesome ideas, great energy, and just know that there's a lot of new ideas as well as a lot of things that we've been hearing across our listening sessions. So really good to get your perspectives. So what we're going to do next, as I mentioned at the beginning, we have 6 different buckets of different American Rescue Plan, Maine Jobs and Recovery Plan themes that we're really moving forward at Maine Department of Labor in partnership with the State Workforce Board. And so we want to do some rapid fire to give you a chance to provide input questions around some of these themes. So we're going to do 2 different rounds, 10 minutes each, and we'll have your choice of 3. So the first round, you're going to choose either apprenticeship, industry partnerships, or job seeker navigation of the topic that you want to discuss. And our prompts there are, what must we keep in mind as we're planning these initiatives and implementing them? What should really be the key considerations, criteria? What should we be thinking about doing differently? And what questions do you have about this initiative? And again, we are at these early stages of planning, so we're really looking for your thoughts and ideas at this stage. So we're going to launch round 1. So if you're not already prompted, but Isaac is going to go ahead and prompt, and you'll see the opportunity to join one of 3 breakouts. Choose the one that's most interesting to you of apprenticeship, industry partnership, or job seeker navigation. And we'll do rapid fire, get your thoughts and questions, and come back in 10 minutes. And if you don't see that prompt, you can click the breakout icon and it should pop up there. Or Isaac will put you in a room and hopefully you find it a topic of interest. See you all in 10. Okay, I think we're missing one room potentially. Isaac, are folks coming back?
Yeah, I think we're just missing 2 people.
Oh, okay. Well, then we can go ahead and get started. Okay, so we're going to do rapid fire report out. So just 1 or 2 interesting things. As I said, we've got our board that we are keeping, so you don't need to feel the need to hit on all of the great comments. But Liz, from our group, you want to hit on just 1 or 2 things about apprenticeship and pre-apprenticeship that we talked about?
Sure. So we were looking at how to really make apprenticeships and pre-apprenticeships more easily accessible for both education organizations, agencies, as well as employers. That many of us have heard about them and are very familiar with them, but actually have not had much experience implementing them or being involved in one. So how do we lower the barriers to participation and look beyond, particularly at sectors that would benefit from that kind of financial investment as well, such as childcare, and looking at, I gave an example of an English language learner child development associate program that it requires 480 hours of internship or practicum, and how can we make sure that those hours are paid, perhaps through an apprenticeship that could both benefit the employer with additional personnel and also offer opportunities for interns to get paid while they're completing their hours, and to also make sure that wages are livable and competitive. And also looking at pre-apprenticeships, at bridge programming, making sure that people are really ready when they're entering into an apprenticeship. And that, yeah, employers right now do make a significant investment when they sign up for apprenticeships. And is there any opportunity to offer additional support for employers so it's slightly less of an investment or risk for them?
Awesome. Great recap. Thanks, Liz. Industry partnerships conversation. What'd you guys talk about?
So that was me, and I think that the kind of universal message here is that these industry partnerships, they're complicated. There's a lot of work that goes into putting them together. So we need to make sure that there's lots of good communication, collaboration with all partners, and that we're approaching these with one voice, one approach across all of our various organizations.
Awesome. Thanks, Chris. Job seeker navigation.
Great. I think Catherine's going to report out for us.
So we had a great conversation, just to kind of give you the highlights. Let's see. So the childcare and transportation, definitely a really big highlight in our group as well. Supporting Maine graduates who have stayed in Maine to find jobs, and those who left for college to come back. And that could include things like more generous student loan forgiveness or financial supports and other kinds of things to sort of try to make it like worthwhile, or like to try to incentivize them to come back or to stay. So making sure that there's sufficient staff to support job seekers, like the human connection. So making sure there's enough people on staff to have that one-on-one connection. Unique supports for foreign trained professionals. I think what that one means is like people who have degrees that are from overseas, they come here, making sure that that degree can transfer and they can use it here in Maine. Providing career guidance in middle school. So starting a little bit younger and kind of getting kids on that track. So by the time they get to high school and maybe they're thinking about dropping out or whatever, they've already sort of thought about where they want to go. Marketing Maine to job seekers from outside of the state, not just in state. And if they need relocation support, providing that if that's a barrier for them. And helping employers create a network for spousal partner employment opportunities so that if family units want to relocate, then both partners can have those supports.
Excellent. Lots of good conversation and lots of good ideas. So we're going to keep the brainstorming rolling and do one quick rapid fire. This is going to be a little bit shorter so that we can try to get you out a couple minutes early. So we're going to do the next round on these 3. So training and education support, employer supports in creating an inclusive workplace, and healthcare workforce strategies. So Isaac is going to launch those. That should pop up on your screen. If it doesn't, click that breakout room icon and you should be prompted to click the one that's interesting to you. And if you have trouble, we can place you in one and hope that it is interesting. So we'll come back in about 8 minutes. This one will be pretty quick, and then we'll wrap up.
Anybody else having a real problem finding this?
Or clicking on
Finding
it.
what,
and you don't get
David?
in.
Yeah, I mean, I click on the breakout room icon and there's nothing there.
If you need me to add you to a group, just let me know if there's one particular that you'd like to be added to.
Healthcare would be great, but I don't understand why I can't see it.
That's weird. Let me add you to the room though.
Can you add
Okay,
me to
anyone else?
training, please? Hi, can you add me to training? I've clicked it on a couple of times and I'm not on there. Thanks.
I should be heading there soon. Anyone else? Is there a group you want to go into, Scott?
I don't know. You pick it. Somewhere apprentice or pre-apprentice, any of those.
Okay. We'll get you going somewhere.
Okay. I think people are coming back in, and I think we are on track to give everyone a couple more minutes back in their day. So we're going to keep us rolling. Everyone is frozen on my screen. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, we can hear
Okay.
you.
Okay, thanks. I'm seeing some head nods now. Great. So our group talked about training and education supports and just came up with tons of ideas. The sticky note board is booming. So I'm going to ask Kayla to just say one or two things that jumped out to you.
Okay, so our discussion revolved a lot around adult education and just how there's a need for the remedial classes in the basic education in order to prepare people for the workforce. And that a lot of training programs related to adult ed don't have the capacity to hire full-time teachers that are needed to address the needs of basic literacy skills.
Thanks, Kayla. Employer engagement and supports. What did you guys talk about?
That was me. And so need to make sure that we're showcasing the models of successful partnerships. Employers need to make sure that employers are aware of all the available programs to them. Talked about the need for a focus program around the municipal workforce, which is a new one. And that we, in large and small employers, have different needs, so we need to structure our strategies accordingly.
Awesome. Last but not least, our final group.
Awesome. So we've got healthcare workforce, and I think Heather's going to do our report out.
All right. And so we talked about a lot of stuff, so I'm just going to tap into, I think, 4 of them. One of the first one being an easy transfer of licenses, whether folks that are in the industry of healthcare coming in from another state, another country, making that a simpler process to get them into the healthcare workforce quicker. Bridge programs going into the healthcare industry of occupations. Livable wages being competitive across from when you think about entry-level positions into healthcare and being competitive with other industries. I talked a lot about that between a DSP and getting something in retail or food service right now, and the need that we have for those entry levels. And then also conversation about removing barriers that may have criminal histories in letting and working with that population to access employment in the healthcare field, and reducing some of those barriers. Is there any others anybody else wants to shout out from our conversation? All right.
Awesome.
That good, Kim?
Awesome. Thank you.
Great. Thank you so much, everyone. And just to wrap us up, we are tracking toward next week. So we've got 2 more listening sessions, and then we will put it all together and let you know what we learned across the sessions. Lots of common themes that are coming up that can really be priorities for us, as well as really good nuggets coming up. Some new ideas definitely coming up from you all today. So we will be summarizing all of that and putting it out on our website and following up with everyone who's registered to let you know what we learned and what we're going to do with that information. So we are in the middle, as I said, of planning and implementation. So you will start to hear probably early winter around different announcements of funding opportunities that you might be eligible for. So we'll make sure that if you attended these sessions, you're on our list and you'll get those announcements as well. But please feel free. I just put a link in the chat for a survey. If there's anything you didn't get a chance to share today, you can drop it in there or reach out to anyone that you know at the MDOL. And we are happy to hear any other feedback or ideas. And just thank you all for the 90 minutes. We know that time is limited and we appreciate all of your thoughts and feedback. So have a good rest of your day. Thanks, everyone. Bye.